how y'all doing? I'm going to go ahead and, as requested by some folks, do a little bit of a comparison video between these two guys right here. So I've owned the 19X Glock for quite a while. I've done quite a bit of shooting with it, and I recently acquired a Sig M17, which is also quite a fine pistol. But anyways, I'm going to go through this video and go over my positives and negatives on both these pistols, and then kind of decide whether or not I would choose one over the other. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so here is my Glock 19X and my Sig M17, and from my last outing, I haven't cleaned them or anything, so they're a little dirty. So go ahead and make sure that they're clear. Okay. Same with the M17. Okay, clear. So they're both excellent pistols. I really like the PVD finish. Okay, it's quite an attractive finish. I like the FDE color as well, and yeah, so they're both very good pistols. The Glock 19X I've shot quite a bit more than the M17, but I think I've shot the M17 enough to kind of do a good comparison, at least early on. I will roll in some footage of shooting both these pistols, so maybe you can see some of the things I'm talking about. But first off, size. So both these pistols are fairly comparable size-wise. If you look at the length, the M17 is slightly longer, okay? But other than that, overall, length of the grip is the same, and that sort of thing. Okay, so they're both full-size pistols. I would say the 19X is maybe a little easier if you're going to carry this holstered all day, and it's probably a little easier to concealed carry. However, the M17 does have a longer slide, so that advantage I would probably put towards the Glock. For me, I've carried this a little bit already, so I can comfortably say that this is fairly easy to carry. All right, they both have front rail sections that you can mount a light. I have my Olight PL2 Valkyrie mounted on the 19X, as I've had for quite a while. Actually, I need to clean this thing. It's pretty dang dirty, but I have yet to mount anything on the M17. Now, my understanding is the 19X is not the true military version that was submitted for the MHS trials, because it's missing a thumb safety. So that was one of the requirements of the pistols that were submitted. So I kind of wish they would have, even though I don't care for a thumb safety, I kind of wish Glock would have released the actual version that they submitted to the trials, to give a, better feel for what the actual pistol was. But my understanding is that basically everything except for the thumb safety is what they submitted. So the M17, which is the one that was ultimately selected, does have the thumb safety. Okay, and the thumb safety, it's easy to use. I used it a little bit at the range, but it for the most part, for my personal use, I'm not going to be using the thumb safety when I'm firing this pistol. Both of these pistols were plenty accurate. I would say, for me at least, as a shooter, I feel that I was able to shoot the Glock 19X a little bit better. It didn't seem to have quite the muzzle flip that the M17 has. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that the M17 does have a higher bore axis than the 19X. But both of these pistols were plenty accurate. I was shooting plates, I was shooting paper targets at different distances, and I would say either one will do quite a nice job at that. I will say, when I was doing some rapid fire shots, I had a better time with the 19X once again. I feel that the trigger, and this is crazy because Glock triggers generally are not that great, but I mean the 19X trigger is actually pretty crisp. I've shot a lot of older Glocks and never really cared for the trigger, but the trigger on the 19X is pretty nice. The M17, it also has a pretty nice trigger. Okay, but I will say that the reset on that trigger, all right, so seems to be a little bit longer. Okay. And when I was doing some rapid firing of both these pistols, I struggled a little bit because it seemed to me that a couple of times I did not allow this pistol to reset for my following shot. So I stumbled a little bit with that. Maybe it's just me getting used to the pistol. I've shot the P320 before, and I don't remember having this issue. So this was kind of a new thing for me. Maybe it's going to break in over time, but I will say, for me, the trigger, I was having a better time with the Glock trigger than the M17 trigger. With that being said, the trigger shoe of the M17 feels quite a bit more comfortable than the 19X. I've never cared for the little trigger safety that Glock uses, because for me, it never, I don't know if you guys can really see that. Maybe I can put it on this camera. The little trigger safety never goes flush, so it's always there sticking in your finger, and this is probably, you know, one of the big complaints that folks have about shooting Glock. So I don't understand for the life of me why Glock cannot get rid of that that feel of that trigger safety. Because if you buy an aftermarket Glock trigger, what's the first thing they do? Get rid of that feel of that trigger safety when you depress it all the way back. Okay, so it's not still there protruding into your fingers. I shoot with gloves a lot, so it's not a huge deal, but it is something that I would definitely ding on the Glock with that. All right, so moving on. Try not to make this too awful long. Now, as far as the slides go, the sights, you know, they're night sights on both. However, the M17 has the option to remove this panel and to put a red dot. So I believe it's designed for the loophole delta point, I believe it is. The rear night sight does come off though with the panel, so that's kind of a con there. But the 19X doesn't even have this. Okay, but back to the sights. The Glock sights aren't nothing to hoot and holler about. I mean, they're just standard 3-dot. They're just standard 3-dot night sights. And so are the sights on the M17. The front dot is maybe a little bit larger than the rear 2 dots. However, this rear sight is huge. For me, this was a little bit of a challenge to kind of get my eyes to work very well with this. So this huge rear sight is a little bit of economy. I really wish they would have went with a smaller rear sight that wasn't so big and bulky, and then just had a plate forward of the sights to remove for a red dot. I think that would have been a better way to go for Sig. Maybe in the future they will do something like that. But yeah, so that's kind of something I noticed while shooting it that I really struggled with. Trying to get used to these sights and figuring out where they needed to be for accuracy reasons. Overall ergonomics of the pistol, the Glock is pretty good. I would say that the ergonomics, however, would have to go to Sig. It does fit my hand really, really well, and it's got some nice grooves on the side that your fingers contour, all right, on both sides. The Glock, you know, it's pretty normal. If you shot one Glock, you shot them all. So this is basically a Glock 17 length frame. It doesn't have the finger grooves like some of the older Glocks, Gen 3 and Gen 4s. So I like that. I never liked the finger grooves. But I will say that the ergonomics definitely go to Sig on that. However, with the frames, ergonomics aside, I would say that the quality of the frame material, I know these are replaceable, it's not the Surelice part, but I wish Sig would make a frame that's a little bit, I mean, you can already, maybe you can see it in here, but I already have some scratches in the frame, and these frames are very, very, I don't want to use the word cheap, but they're basically cheaply made. My last P320 that I had, the area around the serial number cutout here cracked, and it cracked pretty easily. And then it also had, from the takedown lever, it had marks and stuff on there. I mean, you would think with a pistol that costs, you know, what the P320 costs, even with the replaceable frame, that they would do a little bit better job and just use something that's a little more durable. It seems to be fairly thick down in the bottom, but up here it's really, really thin where it goes around the trigger chassis. So in that regard, I would say give the edge to Glock. However, you know, the Glock, if you crack the frame, you're buying a new pistol, so that kind of sucks. So take that for what you want. So other than that, as far as shootability, they both shot really, really good. I like I said before, I think I was more accurate with the Glock. I don't know if that was because I had more experience with the Glock than the M17, but it seemed to me, and you guys can be the judge for yourself, the muzzle flip seemed to be less with the Glock. I did have the light on here, so it adds a little bit of weight, but it seemed to be more comfortable for me to shoot and easier for me to shoot it fast and get back on target than the M17, but could just be that I'm not quite used to the trigger on the M17. The other thing about the two pistols, it's neither here nor there, but the M17 comes with two Metcar, made for Sig Sauer, but they're Metcar made in Italy magazines, 17 round mags. Whereas if you buy a 19X for roughly the same price, you do get flush fit 17 round mag, and then you get your you get a total of 3 mags. So then you get 2 of the extended 19 round mags, and these extended mags are pretty good. They're also considerably cheaper than the mags for the Sig. So kind of a, you know, costs, if you want to buy a bunch of mags to train and shoot a lot, you're going to be able to buy more mags you start out with more mags with a 19X, but if you want to buy additional mags, it's going to cost you quite a bit more with the Sig P320. I believe they're about 40 bucks a mag and up. If you want the extended mags, I've seen those for $50 something. I mean, that's, to me, is a little bit ridiculous for a pistol that's made here in the US, even though they're using, you know, Metcar, you know, made in Italy magazines for this thing. I mean, we should be able to get all the mags we want for this pistol for 30 bucks, not $50, $60. So kind of a ding there with the M17. All right, so the big question, and most people probably have already guessed by some of my pros and cons, which pistol do I like the most? However, I do like both. I think they're very nicely done. The M17, I can definitely see why the military went with this one for the new sidearm for the military. If I were going to throw my money down on either one of these, gosh, it's really a tough one, because they both have their positives and their minuses. You know, I do like the ability to throw a red dot on here. I do have another pistol that has a red dot, and if the Glock, unfortunately, you know, that's not an option, and you have to either buy a different slide or you have to have your slide cut for a red dot. So that's going to add an expense. That being aside, overall shootability and then value, I would say, as long as you're not going to put a red dot on there, I would have to give the edge to the Glock. You know, 3 mags, you can get these on sale for sub $600, sometimes, you know, $550-ish, depending on the matte pricing deal. If you can get a blue line or blue label discount. When I got this one, I actually got the blue label pricing. You can get it, you know, $540 or so plus tax. So yeah, I would definitely go with the Glock again if I had to choose between the two. Again, the M17, awesome pistol, shoots really good. The modularity is really where it shines, the pluses with this pistol, and then the slide being able to, you know, it's already milled out for a red dot if you choose to go that route. And then the fact that the frame, you know, you can buy other frames and stuff to fit your hands better. So if you don't like, you know, this frame, you can buy a different one. But yeah, I would say, you know, out the box, I like the 19X better. Just everything about it, the way, you know, the way it shoots, the trigger, and then the sights. I struggled really, like I said, with these sights. So, alrighty, so that about wraps it up. So if any of you have any questions or comments, you know, not trying to knock the Sig or knock one or the other. I love them both. I'm going to keep the M17 for a very long time, and I may try to pick up some of the other MHS submissions. So if you have any ideas of which MHS pistol you would like me to pick up next to do a little bit of a review on or a comparison on, please comment down below. So anyways, thanks everybody for watching, and y'all have a good one.